to introduce my my friend Steve McGee. Steve is part of the Lutheran Layman's League here in our region. You gotta come on down, Steve. And I know it sounds like we're on the Price is Right there. Come on down. But Steve is going to talk to us for a couple minutes. We have a short video. If I can get this to wake up and keep going forward. I don't have to look at that picture for very long. Turn it back on. Sorry, Steve. Hang on just a second.
Wow. That's disturbing.
I know. Yeah, that's kind of
darn computers.
Yep, darn computers and all that good stuff. All right, there we go. So, Steve, welcome. It's good to have you with us. Tell me when you're ready for the video.
I do have one question about KFUO.
Sure.
And that's the broadcast over the internet.
It is. It is. In fact, I have a link to my interview, which I will put on Holy Cross's
Is it a 24-hour station?
Yes.
And so
I think so. They
do music and everything.
Yep. They have you know, they do music and then they do you know, rebroadcast and everything. Yep. Sure is.
And my name is Steve. I'm a member of Trinity in Sacramento, and also a member of the Lutheran Layman's League here in Sacramento. We are the people who, a small group of us, get together and put on the Reformation service. And this year we have Dr. Dale Myers as our speaker. And this morning I had the opportunity to briefly talk about our project that we are doing besides the Reformation service, and that would be the Egypt project. And I guess you have been receiving the bulletin insert last Sunday? Or
I think we did it last Sunday.
And so I want to talk a little bit about it, but a little bit more. I talked a little bit about challenge, and this has been a challenge, a personal challenge to me to go to various different churches. There are 2 people in our group that we go throughout all the 24 churches, and I got half of them, and you're one of them. And last week I got the opportunity to go to Jackson and sit in the jury's box, and be part of the service. And somebody, when I sat down in the back, the gentleman said, "Well, you must be Mr. McGee." And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you're going to be part of the service." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm just going to speak a little afterwards." He says, "No, you're part of the sermon." I said, "No way." And sure enough, I was dragged up to the jury's box, and I was part of the sermon. So that was different. So
the church in Jackson just is in a building that was the former
library turned a jury.
Right, a library that was turned into into judicial offices and then was turned into a church.
Yeah. So I have want to talk briefly again about this Egypt project. And the project is, I guess, years ago they pulled out of Egypt, and now they want to go back into Egypt, and they need some funds. As you know, the Lutheran Hour has scattered throughout the world, and they have about 50+ countries. It's probably closer to 70 or more countries that they are in, and each of them have their own radio station. It's not it's not Reverend Self that speaks in their language. It's each country has their own pastor and puts on their own Lutheran Hour ministry a radio program. So they would like to get back into Egypt because of the stability is there now, and be able to add to it by broadcasting on the satellite, and be able to allow 150 million Muslims to receive the gospel. So part of my little speech is this 90-second video.
All right, you ready? Yeah. All right.
Hi, I'm Eric Gates, Regional Director for Africa and the Middle East for Lutheran Hour Ministries in St. Louis, Missouri. Today I want to talk to you about an exciting opportunity we have to expand our outreach to Muslims in the Middle East through the opening of a new ministry center in Cairo, Egypt. Over the past year, I've spent some time in Egypt, and I've gotten to know several Christian ministry and church leaders there. They've all told us and asked us to please come back to the Middle East, bring our experience there to share the gospel with Muslims. You might wonder, why now? When you turn on the news every day, all you see are news headlines about bombings, attacks, even an attempted coup in Turkey. But these Christian leaders have told us that's exactly why we're needed there now. People have seen the atrocities committed in the name of Islam. They've seen the coups and the revolutions. and this has left them questioning their faith and searching for answers. Our plan in Egypt is to produce an original television program, a weekly program that will air on Sat7, a Christian satellite station. The station reaches over 150 million Arabic-speaking Muslims throughout the Middle East. And our plan is to reach those people in the privacy of their own homes. Because of all the insecurity and instability, many people are afraid to go out in the streets. Our traditional methods of reaching people and talking one-on-one just won't work. That's why using mass media today through satellite television is so important. I ask you to please keep the people of the Middle East in your prayers, that peace and stability can return. And above all, that people can use opportunities like this, that we can share the gospel with those people, that they'll respond with a message of Jesus, grace, and love. Thank you very much.
So 3 years ago, I started to read the Old Testament. I don't know how many of you have gone through the Old Testament, but reading is not fun for me. I just do not like to read. But I started in 1st and 2nd Samuel because it's the old stories from our Sunday school classes. And I said, I remember that one, I remember that one. I kept going, and now I'm into the minor prophets. And what they have to say there is happening back in BC is happening now again. Everybody, they talk about in the Bible, Baal, praying to false gods. God is really angry at the children of Israel, and he is going to show his wrath. And that's why the children of Israel had wars, and they lost wars. But God was watching over his people. So I really feel close to this program. And I really feel that the Lutheran Hour Ministry people will do a great job of doing the mass media, renting the satellite channel, and being able to broadcast the good news of the gospel to the 150 million people. So that's what this program is about, along with opening up the center again in Cairo. So if you're able to pray, that's the first thing we're asking you to do. And I have been praying constantly since we took this on as a challenge back in January. I have been praying for God's guidance and God's help to be able to have this be a successful program. And also, if you're able to give, we're asking that you give generously and with a cheerful heart. So you have an offering at the end of the service, and then the church will send the funds in. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve. We sure appreciate you being here. The one question that I have, I think I might know the answer, but you can help me if I'm wrong here, Steve, is that why is it so important that this be radio and television? You know, instead of planting churches directly in all of these places. Do you have any ideas?
I don't have an answer, but I would think that it's the mass media, people on their cell phones and picking up channels.
Sure. I think that that's right. The other reason is that in many of these places, it's simply illegal. It's illegal to be a Christian. It's illegal to have churches at all. And so the only way that we the church are able to get into these countries in many ways is to kind of send missionaries either under the radar, which is, very dangerous, but we do that sometimes. But a lot of times it really starts with some kind of mass media, YouTube, satellite radio, satellite television, this sort of thing. Yeah. I have a friend in New Mexico that works with another pastor to do a live broadcast where he basically just teaches the catechism, and he has millions of people that view this. They do it in Arabic, and that's exactly why. It's because there's no other way. Catherine, do you have anything?
I was just, does Issues, etc. also, is that a...
Well, Issues, etc. is an internet radio program.
So that's
so it is certainly available on the web. And the trick with many of these countries is that because the government also controls all of the utilities, it's kind of a probably a bad analogy, but you're used to it. It's kind of a whack-a-mole game, where a station or an IP address or something will pop up until the government recognizes it, and then they'll whack it and close it down, and then they have to move someplace else. So that kind of happens all over the Middle East as well as in other places as
So
well.
now, you said they have a Christian, I don't know where you are, there, Christian television station that they are able to access, is that correct?
Well, I understand that Satellite 7 is already a Christian satellite, so they're going to get a channel off of that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a satellite program, right?
Huh.
And it all kind of varies from what country has the most tolerance in a given time and place, and maybe it's here for 10 years or 20 years. I mean, that's why we had worked in Egypt for decades and then had to pull out. And so this is really going back to what we had been doing for a long, long time,
Okay.
as I understand it.
I understand too that the numbers have dropped from 300 million Christians in that area down to like 10 million.
Yeah, exactly. This is a huge opportunity. And I might also add that the message accompanied with mercy, kind of on the ground, is really goes a long way. Showing mercy to people it's a good idea. I hope that's obvious, but sometimes obvious things aren't so obvious.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Please.
Now, will there be actual people in Egypt? You say this is for a center in Egypt. Will there be people from the Lutheran Laymen's League there, or will it just be that the show will be broadcast there?
I understand the one that I spoke with about this morning, that's near the Syria border where we see people, there are actually LHM people there.
I think that's right.
They're like I call them the front line.
Yeah, no kidding. So there's
warriors.
actually, that's great. Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions for Steve or anything that I can try to help with? All right, let's get to our ongoing topic. I think that we are on part 6 of our series on the liturgy with Dr. Arthur Just. Last week we talked about table fellowship, liturgy in the life of Jesus. We talked about that Luke 4 verses from Isaiah. Just to kind of get your memory chugging from last time, what were the 2 fundamental or basic parts of table fellowship at the time of Jesus? Anybody remember? Teaching and eating. It is table fellowship, right? So it was teaching that is accompanied by common meal. That was very, very common in Jesus' day, and really to this day. That is, in some respects, a concept that we have lost today, or certainly is less common. But that was what was in place. And today, what do those 2 parts look like in our liturgy today? Word and sacrament. All right, now your brains are starting to engage a little bit. We'll get there. That's good. So let's go on to our video for this week. You all have the sheet that need one? Looks like it. Okay.
Up until this point, we have been
Right, lots of interesting things there. It's always amazing to me how you can kind of be in and a part of something that you do every week, and yet there's always a new way to kind of come at it or think about it. And that's really at least what I was taking away from that video, is we had the connection to the synagogue worship, and kind of what was the big difference between the synagogue order and the churches, the early church order, for kind of how they did the readings. What was the difference between the 2?
The gospel was at the end. Coming points to it, whereas in the Jewish, it would begin.
Right. So in the synagogue worship, they would begin with the Torah, the books of Moses, and then everything else would be sort of a commentary on that. Whereas in the early church, they ordered it where you would sort of build up to the gospel. So you had Old Testament reading, epistle reading, and then the gospel. So you had kind of this climax, two climaxes of the gospel and then the Lord's Supper, which we'll deal with next week. So I thought that was interesting. You ready for an hour reading of the epistle? You ready for that, Walt? The Ruth one was pretty long this morning, at least by our standards, about a chapter and maybe a chapter and a half, almost 2 chapters. So yeah, that's kind of a big difference. Why do you think we just can't listen today when it comes to hearing something? TV? Yeah, TV does it does train us to be ready. There.
We can't listen, we just have to be disciplined.
Yeah, it is, and that's the word, isn't it? Yeah. It is a discipline, it is a training that you have to do. In any field, there is the concept of a discipline that you have to learn how to ear training. If you're doing music, you have to learn how to hear intervals. Or when I was doing languages in college, you have to do this stuff on a regular basis. You can't say, okay, I'm going to learn Greek, and then I'll look at it again in another 3 years, because there won't be any left. It's a discipline. It is a discipline, absolutely. So I found that interesting. Other kind of thoughts on that length? Yeah, Art.
Again, it's something you have access to it. You're like, well, I can do this anytime, whether reading this or going up for me in Washington, D.C. I can do any of this stuff downtown anytime. Once I moved away, I went back. So we only do these things for, hey, we have this for 3 weeks.
Right.
We not see this again for 2 years.
And we don't handle the concept of scarcity, really ever. We want to have instant access to everything at all times. Now, of course, having access to something is not the same as actually using it. Just look in your garage and find out how that is. Yeah.
This is a little bit like with the Lutheran hour going to Egypt.
Right.
We have the Lutheran hour here.
Right.
We have all that. We have so many things that we have access to that we don't pay attention to.
Right.
And that is, that concept of going someplace where they don't have it. It is a gem that they find. And it's sad, but it's true. Sometimes we're more effective when we're in persecution than we are in places like he said, where we have it.
One of the Board of Regents members is a new member, lives in Boston, and he's also a singer, and he had just gotten back from a trip to Germany, where they were there for a Pretorius festival. Pretorius was a Lutheran musician, early 17th century, kind of pre-Bach. And he went there, and they sang in all of these different churches, and afterwards, it just kind of amazed him how many people thanked him for kind of introducing them to this music. It's like, he actually was literally right here in this town. So, but that's the notion that these things have been lost.
An expert is somebody
that are now reintroduced. So yeah, that was interesting. Was there another hand introduced? Yeah, please, Andy. Technology.
The root of
a lot of people. And once again, just because I have access to something, I'm not putting my hand near my heart, but near my phone. Just because I have access to something does not mean actually receiving it and making use of it. Is there another Dennis?
Just spoke to Pam this morning, and she had finished up a church service that was supposed to be an hour and 15 minutes, which was 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
And, so,
Yeah,
And
well,
they
that
don't-
kind of makes it a workout, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That is. Yeah, that is a very different feel for things. Indeed. Indeed. Other comments about, yeah, Steve?
I had a pastor say that we just have too much noise, and that's why we can't listen.
Yeah.
You look at the people in 200, AD, and
Right.
they all they had to do is get their food and listen.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a great sense of that. One of the things that we have in our daily prayer book in Holy Cross of Prayer is reading, meditation, and what's next? Anybody look at them anymore? Silence. And I'm sure that for many of us, we kind of look at that and like, I can skip that part. Because I don't have time for that. So, okay, silence. Okay, let's go on. And that notion of actually kind of rehearing and meditating, and I'm speaking for myself as much as I am anybody else. I'm not sitting in judgment here, believe me. But yeah, that concept of silence and meditation is very lost today. Yeah.
My mother used to tell me, listen to the silence.
Listen to the silence. Yeah.
That's what she told me.
I like that. That's an interesting notion. Be still. Listen to the silence. Paul.
In our day and age, we think that we should be multitasking all the time.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to multitask when you're supposed to do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Multitasking is a lie to begin with. So that's right. That's some really interesting challenges there. And when I look at our worship practice and the liturgy, a part of what I want to kind of impart to people is the notion of simplicity and of meditation. And that's hard when we're talking about a liturgy that people have various levels of familiarity with, and never mind music, and kind of it's very easy to have lots of pieces. So to make it feel busy, and that should never be our notion when it comes to these things, is that this is busyness, that I have to sort of have a checklist of things. It's hard. It's hard. There's no simple solution or answer for that. That's for sure. Any other comments or thoughts that kind of drew you out in that video? Yeah. All right, we're gonna definitely circle back at some of these things. I want to take a couple minutes and look at another one of our churches. It's a life forming step. This is one that's right in our backyard virtually. This is Peace Lutheran Church in Natomas. Yes, Catherine.
I'm sorry, I had a comment.
Okay, I didn't see you.
I know.
So
I was
please.
making noise. Anyway, one of the things that I have come to really appreciate here at our Church of Holy Cross as compared to when we were in the Midwest is that I feel like one of the blessings that we have in this area is that being a Christian, being a Lutheran Christian, is not normal. And being a confessional Lutheran Christian is downright countercultural.
Yeah.
And what I have seen because of that is I feel like we have the blessing of not taking our faith or our church for granted. And we are in some ways more in that sense of not persecution, but it is definitely not normal, whereas sometimes I think in the Midwest or in places where, being a Lutheran is a little bit, everybody's their dog may be Lutheran, they have to go to church.
Right.
But, and I run into more people out here who's like, oh yeah, I was raised Lutheran, blah, blah, blah. But I think that it is a little easier to take for granted when it is more convenient.
Sure.
And so,
Sure.
when you look at our, it's not convenient to come here for a lot of people.
That's right. That's right.
And so,
Well,
that
and
is a blessing we have.
And I do think that again, really sort of plays out when we talk about our reception of the Word of God. That because the Word of God is everywhere, you can have it on your phone. You can have, nearly every family has copies of the Bible. So it's not like the Bible is scarce, but hearing the Bible is a whole different matter. Yeah, lots of interesting things to think on. All right, a couple thoughts on this. Peace Lutheran Church is in Natomas, so kind of just south of 80, not too far from the airport, maybe 10-15 minutes here. Any of you ever been to Peace in Natomas, just out of curiosity?
The original one.
Yeah, the original one. Yeah, I think that the building here, I'm going to say it's 20 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood, 15 or 20 years old. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of this as a building.
It's like it could be a mason.
Yeah, but it has a couple elements that I think are worth pointing out for us. So this is kind of a view from the chancel. We had our pastors gathering there a couple weeks ago. That's why I know it. I know it's a kind of a weird picture, but this is what you could call a chapeltorium or something like that. It's a multi-purpose space. So it can be used as a gymnasium or as a church or as you can see the basketball court lines in the middle there. And that's a part of what I am not a fan of. I don't think that practice lends itself to a good notion of reverence. But there are a couple of things that are good. This is the sanctuary, or the chancel as they have it set up. One of the things that I like, that I actually thought in a space like that they could do more of, is more with the plants. We could ask, why do we have flowers? But I'll say, why is it relatively common to have lots of greenery in churches? Is because this is new life. This is life. And so to have things that literally are alive is a good picture there. You can see it's a very simple altar. Nothing too complicated there. There you get kind of a little more vertical view. This pulpit, the pulpit fall has some really nice elements to it. You can see there's the cross and what is this kind of cross with the P look at the top? Anybody remember what that symbol is? That's called a chi-rho. It's actually two Greek letters. The letter, what looks like an X for us is called chi, and the letter rho for us looks like a P. So those are the first two letters of Christ. So that's called a chi-rho symbol. But I really like that they have the open Bible there, and the lamp. Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. So there's kind of a nice Psalm 119 element to it. Yes, is there, please, Pat.
Go back to the last, there, and I saw a baptismal fountain with water.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah, and I can see that. I'm pretty sure it's a lamp, but it does lend itself to a couple different interpretations there, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I can imagine that. A very strange cross, I'm not going to lie. But a part of what they have with all of their facility is portability. It's kind of one of the key things for them is they need to be able to move things around. Obviously, you can get some kind of Trinitarian things going on with that. One of the things that I found interesting about this space is that they have tracker lighting up above, and I don't know if any of you have ever done any stage lighting or anything like that, or looked at that, but these tracker lighting, I couldn't get a good picture of it, are multiple different colors. And what those multiple different colors of tracker lighting do, very practically, is combine together to make it look like natural light. So that you don't have a yellow tint like tungsten or a bluish greenish tint like fluorescent or whatever, but that those colors are mixed together so that it looks like sunlight if you're kind of looking down on that, which I think is a pretty neat. That was one of the pieces that I wanted you to kind of see and take away from this, is the use of light.
Are those ceiling lights, are those big square things, is that sunlight or is that fluorescent light?
I don't remember.
They look like they're,
Play basketball,
they're probably fluorescent.
They're probably fluorescent. I don't know, honestly, though. But anyway, I thought that lighting was something that we could actually make use of at a relatively minimal amount of expense, and then that could help us a lot with focus in our space. Any other comments on that or thoughts on that one?
It looked like, can you cut off the actual, part of that church and just have the basketball look like on the very first picture?
Well, sure. I mean, this chancel is essentially a stage, functionally speaking, and so I mean, you could close the whole thing off, and that's exactly how they use it. This is really their only big space at all. So as I said, I'm not a fan of the multi-purpose sense of it.
How do they do communion there?
Pardon me?
How do they do communion?
They usually have people come down to the very base level of the steps and line up. So there's no communion rail. They stand. I mean, there's no other way you can do it. So they stand in a row there. Yep, that's one of the challenges of the space. All right, friends, the hour is upon us. Next week we will do the Liturgy of the Sacrament, so we'll do the second half. Let us close with the benediction. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Amen. Have a great week, everyone.